Hey.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for being here on this journey to soulful connections. And today we're talking about facing our fears. And I just think with this shift happening for 2016, I just find that there's a lot of people that are, including myself, I'm definitely one of them in that process, about stretching myself and stepping into another part of who I am. And I find that facing our fears is part of the journey to connecting to who we are, to growing as people. And usually when fears do show up, they show up in one facet of our lives, but it kind of takes over the whole. I'll explain a little bit. If, let's say, my fears, I'll take my example, my fears of writing this book that I've been, and I'm committing to it in 2016 wholeheartedly, and that's all I'm focusing on. My fears of writing it is only in that facet of my life, but it's kind of rubbing off on all the other facets of my life, which is kind of taking over my life. So if I take a deer in headlights, it's not just an expression. I don't know if anybody has been around deers, but I was, for 20 years, I lived in an area where there was a lot of deers. And that expression of having being like a deer in headlights is really true. I was driving on the road at one point in my life when I was back there, and 3 deers popped in front of my car, and it was obviously a snowy night where the roads were slippery and I was driving very slowly. And one of them turned around, looked at me, and literally you could see like that deer in headlights. That's exactly what happened. He was stuck and he wasn't moving. And for a fraction of a second, I swerved and the headlights were removed from his eyes. And that's what happens with our fears, is we get so stuck in looking at them that we, if we can get something that pulls our look away from looking at that fear, we can sometimes shift into that. And thankfully that deer, I didn't hit it, thank goodness. But that's what happens with our fears. They kind of overtake. Yeah, sorry, that's the French in me. they take over part in our life, and they touch on everything, and that's such an unfortunate thing. And it kind of starts. We wear it in our bodies. We have it involved in our lives. And today, what I want to talk about is, where are you facing fears? What are you doing about it? How do you cope with it? When do they show up? And why do they show up? For me, I think they show up when I need to grow, when I need to put myself out there into another part of who I am, so that like that deer in headlights, when I have to face my fears, that means that I have to take my look away from that fear, bring back my energy inside of my body, and trust who I am so that I can face what's coming at me. And so from there, I'll give the conversation to Cherie. And if anybody wants to hop in and join in on the conversation, I'd love to hear people's point of view, how you deal with it. We all have our own fears. None of them are irrelevant because you're living them. They're real for you. And there is nothing that we can't talk about when it talks about facing our fears in this forum. So you're invited to join in the conversation.
Nicole, I am laughing. We are such soul sisters. I mean, I love it. Fears show up when we need to grow. When we're growing and we're afraid to grow up. And I actually, for me, it's extreme. Like my body, it shows up in my body. I literally did a huge healing and clearing over the week so that I could actually change this pattern in this experience that I carry forth. However, consistently when I'm laughing because I'm in a recliner, in pain, can't move, can't do too much walking. And as I was listening to you talk about, for you when shears show up, it's when you need to grow. I have a visual of all the times in the last several years I've been in a recliner. And it's always been an injury that shows up when I'm about to take a big step. So back in 2012, I twisted and fell on my ankle in such a way that I was in a cast and laid up for literally weeks. And it also happened to coincide right before I started to do my shaman training. And I told my teacher that was such a sign for me that I wasn't supposed to do this. And really what it was my fear showing up. So, and clearly it was what I was meant to do because it all lined up perfectly so that I could get to trainings and have support and all of that. Hey, Dave.
Hey, all right?
How you doing?
I'm doing well. What about you?
I'm great. Thank you. Hi, Irene.
We're talking about fears, so she's doing great.
I'm in another growth stage, so I'm in pain, and I'm in a recliner.
This is so strange. The last time we spoke, I remember the words Vikram yoga.
Yeah. And that's where I hurt myself, oh, by the way.
No way. That's true.
It is. Just trying to be too extreme. And so I'll tell you this story just really briefly, and it all ties in. So Thursday morning, very early, I was wide awake, and I did a healing. I did a meditation for my root chakra and my sacral chakra. And later today, I'm talking about chakras, so I'll give you more about that later in that because that's not this blab. But I started to have like all of these like awarenesses and thoughts and things come through like that. I was like, oh my gosh, and cleared it because I understand how they're all related and the issues that are there. I go to yoga that day, and in triangle pose where I'm usually not. My hips are really stiff, so I'm not usually too deep in the pose. For some reason, I decided to go deep. And I was like, oh, this is great. I must have released something. And I was holding in my hips, and I was so excited. And then for 2 days, it was sore. But I'm like, that's okay. And then Saturday morning, I woke up and literally couldn't move. Like, I can't, move. And the pain is excruciating in my right hip. So, of course, I called my healer, teacher, mentor, colleague, and we do this huge healing and look at the real big emotional unconscious energetics underneath it and cleared that, which was great. And then I called I hooked up with another one of my mentors, teachers, and we did a reading. I said, okay, I need to look, is what's left just the physical injury that actually has to heal, or is there more for me to look at underneath it? So but what she saw, this is hysterical, is it looks like what I see is that you're getting ready to really own something and to step up and to grow. And so the masculine energy is coming in and kicking you to almost stop you because the ego and the masculine, and you still are so much in your masculine energy that it's hard for you to allow that feminine side of what you're stepping into and how you're doing everything to still show up. And that's what's going on. And I thought, oh my gosh, so isn't that interesting how our bodies and our minds and our experiences are also related if we're willing to just look at them and see what's there.
Yeah, and it's so true. And to go deeper into the feminine masculine energy, the masculine energy is the energy of action. And here we are refusing to take action on something that forces us to grow, that forces us to face our fear. So, of course, the feminine is reacting, and she's just going, here you go, then. Here's that shit that goes with it.
No, the feminine doesn't do that, though. She's much more loving and calm and accepting.
Feminine energy has her way of reacting as well. And everybody has both energies. It's not, don't misunderstand this as a man and woman thing.
Yeah, this isn't about man and woman.
Yeah, it's the feminine and the masculine energy is two different energies. Yes. And we both, it's the yin and the yang. Like, we both have them. So we all have both.
That business about the yin and the yang is right, but it just goes to prove that you're not as young as you thought you were.
Rain, I watched you nodding and smiling as I was talking, so I have a feeling you can so relate to all of this in your own experience right now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, it was funny because as you were talking, and it's funny how these symptoms come out physically for us too. Like I'll notice for me, I'll start shallow breathing. I'll start doing these really shallow breaths. And then it's a matter of catching myself doing that and going, why are you doing that? What's behind this? And then deep breathing and going deeper into it to getting to what the cause is. What is the root of this that your body is trying to alert you to something that, something that needs to be done or gone through or whatever, addressed, that type of thing. And I know I've noticed that with, because I'm a intuitive video coach and trainer. So I noticed this with myself when I first started out, because in order to help people come out and get visible, I had to do it myself. And that was a huge fear. That was an absolutely massive fear because I did not want to do that. I did not want to do that, but I was getting, I was in its essence sort of forcing myself, right?
Yes.
But what was really interesting about that was at the time, I didn't really know. I knew it had something to do with video, but I didn't know what my role in that was going to be going forward. So I just sort of just behaved like a sponge and took everything in. So anybody I was helping, because this was mostly on Hangouts, anybody I was helping, I was watching their body language. I was watching what they were saying. I was watching, because typically what somebody says, they think the problem, they don't even know themselves. They don't even know themselves. So then it's a matter of trying to figure out, okay, they're saying this, but what's underneath that they're trying to deal with? What is it that, that they're trying to deal with? And then getting to the root of that, which, I had no idea it was going to go like that. I had absolutely no idea. I thought it was a matter of, okay, this is how you turn your camera on. This is how you do this. This is how you do that. I had no idea this whole mindset, and feelings and self-worth and all these different, and addressing fears. I had no idea that these were the things that people were going to be dealing with. These were the actual, this was reality. This is what people were going to be dealing with, which in essence, I was dealing with myself. But because I was doing it in a way where I was trying to serve, trying to learn more, it wasn't as, I think, hard as it could have been for me. So, very much so. Yeah, I can relate with what you're saying.
We're getting such great comments in the stream there. And it's like, Rain, I am so happy to see you. For everybody, we're two Canadian gals here. Two Canucks on the loose here. But that's so true. It's like when our body does speak a lot for us, and there's so much information there, and if we learn to listen to it, there's so much more because verbally I know for myself, verbally I can lie to myself like nobody can, and so I believe it. I believe my own lies when I speak them, but my body doesn't lie to me. And when I'm facing a fear, my body it's like Rain was saying, the shortness of breath. For me, I can tell I'll lean forward. I won't be standing in my own energy. I can recognize that I'm not centered in who I am. There's different things that show up, and I know that's when I know I need to lean back. I know I need to put and that's what I do. I spend a lot of time looking and observing myself and making sure that I'm aligned in my body. And that doesn't mean that I'm balanced. It means I am centered, and that's a different meaning for me. And I feel it in my body. And the center is not just about the core. It's centered in my legs, centered in my feet, centered in my arms, and centered all the way in through my body. So that way I can, like that deer in the headlights, once I allow myself to look elsewhere than where that beam of fear is, I can trust myself. I can hone in on who I am, and I can face that fear and slowly make the shift into that. Because there was a comment, and I don't sorry everybody, if you weren't here at the beginning, I can't concentrate on two things at the same time. I'm not very good with the comment stream, but there was John Birch. Fear is a great road sign that says, hey, you're off your path. And to me, that has some truth, but I would say it's not you're off your path. You just have to shift a little bit. Because to me, how I hear that, and John, maybe you can explain it a little bit more. And there's two Johns that commented at the same time. For me, off your path sounds like you're like completely off track. So to me, off my path is I just have to do a little shift. Look at just away from that head beam, that beam of light that's in my eyes of fear, and just recorrect my course. And then from there, 1 degree of shift, and it allows me to go into that next phase of what I'm doing.
The thing about fear is fear is a very good thing, and a lot of people say, you no fear, but what it should be is no fear, KNOW, no fear. Know what the fear is, and not more than it is. See the fear for what it is, rather than think it's more than it is. So the saying of fear being an acronym for false evidence appearing real is true, but it's a guide. And a fear of heights is fine, because if you went up to a really tall building and just walked around as if it was, or you were on the ground, you get into a hell of a lot of trouble. So having a fear of things is good sometimes. But a constant fear of things is bad. An overload of fear. So seeing the fear for what it really is probably a way of dealing with the fear. It's just strange that when we were speaking the other day, Shireen, we were talking about my accident, and I said getting close to the source. Sometimes something has to happen to you because you're about to receive some form of guidance or information from somewhere, and it just cannot get through. And these things happen to you to bring you nearer to the source of that information. And it happens to you because it knows that you're strong enough to deal with it more than somebody else. And then your whole framework and fabric of your life changes. You may even change the direction that you go in. You may change the direction of your work, your belief system, the lot. But things like this, although we can laugh, and we did, and we probably will again, about the yoga, but and if we can laugh about it, that's fine, because we're reframing it into something that we can is dealable with. We can process it, in that way. But all great things in our life happen after we've had some form of stall, some form of halt or slow down. When we feel that we're being dragged back, and we feel that we're being held back, or we feel that we're being slowed down, it's because, like when we fire an arrow at a target, at a bullseye, at a target, to fire it at the bullseye, we have to pull it back. And so when we pull it back, we're getting it ready to fire it into something that is the target, the focus, the point that it wants to be at. And so when we feel that we're being pulled back, or we feel that we're being held back, or something impedes us like this, it's really because whatever we classify as it being God, the universe, spirit, the internal representation of what we think is outside guiding us, is pulling us back because it's going to fire us into something really fast, really quickly, and really good for us in a way that we would never have been able to aim and hit it before.
Okay. That's well done. Beautiful. You have such a way.
And it's
John, I think an alignment with what you're saying is drifting from your path that you're meant to be upon is the connected path, the sourced path. And this fear should steer you to get aligned and connected and move through the fear to that place of faith or knowing. And I know, like, that's been my journey and path. I know, Nicole, that's as we've been working on that together and helping each other through that. And hopefully, I mean, we were talking the other night, Dave, that sometimes either the fear is so strong that we can't even look at it or hear it or allow ourselves to move forward. And we're so stubborn at ignoring it that it takes sometimes something a little bit more dramatic and violent to get us to listen.
It's true.
As we were both sharing.
Yeah, it's true. In this day and age, we are caught up in so much BS and crap and rubbish that's invading our mind. And the business that we see on the news, that we read in the newspapers. If you read the newspaper, I gave up reading the newspaper ages ago. But when you get all of this stuff, it clogs you up. And the only way that you can get somebody's attention in marketing, in anything these days, you cannot tap them on the shoulder. You have to hit them between the eyes with a hammer, and they go, "What?" And it shakes them out. And this is the same sort of thing. This is a way that is going to jolt you out of your reality into another area of reality, which is this, get ready, slow down, prepare yourself, because in a moment we're off down the yellow brick road and away we go. That's really what it's all about.
Yes.
I agree. I agree. And you know what? This is where I like to, this is what attracted me to Nicole initially, was how she brings nature into the equation. Because with all these types of forms of media and all these different things, that takes us away from ourselves. That gets us looking outward. And when we look outward, we have less information about ourselves, and we have less to go on to move forward in our journeys. So that's where I find the grounding and watching, what's going on in nature to be really, really helpful, because it gives you time for reflection about yourself, about what is actually going on with you. And what it is you need to do to move forward, because we're all so different. We all have, such different qualities and parts to our personalities that, there's quite a bit to learn. There's quite a bit to learn. And it's funny because I've noticed as I've grown older, what you're sort of raised and told you are, as you're growing up, you're this, you're that, you're this, you're that. And as you grow up and you start really looking at that information and you realize maybe that's sort of true, maybe a little bit. It's sort of feeling like this to me, moving forward. This is sort of how it's feeling to me. And the fact that, like, with nature, we're always evolving. We're always changing. We're always learning. We're always trying new things. Hopefully, we're always trying new things. And to keep us going on our path towards what is our highest, what's the form of our highest best, so that we can encourage and increase the highest best in others around us, right?
True. So true. And it's...
if we're not willing to do that work ourselves, to look inside to ourselves, to learn what that means, to understand who we are in our best selves and who we're here to help and serve, make a difference, then how are we going to be that person for anyone else? I mean, that's so important for us to do, to be able to be willing to do that, to get quiet, to explore, to ask questions. And I think what I keep finding myself doing is trying to tell myself that I need to do things that I used to do at a time in my life when I was successful in a completely different way. And things that I did then worked really well for me. And so I get to a really good place and everything's working. And there's this voice that keeps telling me, myself, I think, you need to, that voice is still there. The voice we all have. You have to do more. You have to push harder. It's not enough. And even though I'm aware of this, and even though I'm always questioning it, I'm not always sometimes really noticing how that's showing up for me, because it's always disguised in things that are good for me, you know? So, and it was interesting because that's, you know, my coach the other day said, well, why do you feel that you need to be going to these 75 and 90-minute intense yoga classes? Like, is that a should? Because I don't feel, when you talk to me about it, I don't hear any enjoyment.
I got one out with
What's wrong with what you've been doing that was working for you, that you enjoyed and that felt good? Like, why do you think it has to be more than you know? And I hadn't even, like, and that's why it's so wonderful to have like coaches and healers and support people in communities, so that we can, because, you know, as much as we go in, sometimes it's so helpful to have somebody to hold that space with you and be with you, and maybe ask questions that you're not knowing to ask yourself, and to see it a different way. So it's just so interesting how, and for me, I think it's just, because it always leads to me getting hurt, which means that I'm down, which means that I don't have to step forward and go out and be and create what I know I'm supposed to be doing. And I'm done with that, just so you know. You've heard it first. So I'm done with that program.
That's so funny, and that's what I mean. But see, like that is not even like. Did you even have an inkling that there was and fear? Don't misunderstand me. But there's fear. There's good fear, like Dave was talking about. Fear can guide you so much. And if you look at, I'll go back to nature, which is always my learning tool. That, let's say that a little animal, whichever little animal, wants to cross a field. The other day I was driving and I saw a wolf sitting right in the middle of the field on watch, and a hawk hovering over a field. So guess what was in that field? Some little animal was somebody's lunch, I'm sure. But that little animal was coming trusting itself, knowing that it's going to be hunted. So it needs to use those instincts of fear, because that's what's going to keep it alive. And that's where we tend to forget that fear can serve us, can guide us, and remind us that, you know what, it's a part of who we are, but it doesn't have to be all that we are. That little animal, whatever it was going in that field and probably feeding, probably getting food for the family, probably, you know, kind of going at it from a place where it definitely was stretching itself. It was more than likely out of its comfort range, because I'm sure it was well aware that there was two really good hunters just sitting there waiting to pounce. So when and that's the same thing for us. Our fears are there. We can acknowledge them, recognize them, and we're not being hunted. But they're part of our process into stretching ourselves into for those little animals. It might be to feed our family, but for feed the family or to whatever. But for us, it's about growing. It's about pushing ourselves into that place that of being, growing into ourselves. So that animal, if it gets caught in the fear, doesn't ground itself in who it is and doesn't trust itself. How do we, like, that's the first thing. That's when I know my fear comes up, and that's why there's Coach Jenny on top there. I reached out to her last week and I said, you know what, I am done. I'm over. I need to write this book, and come hell or high water, I'm getting the cathartic shove that I need, because I need to get this book out there and I need to get out of my way. And so I had to recognize that there was a lot of fear, and that there was a lot of my own issues in there, and I needed to reach out to somebody that was going to push me in that field, fully knowing that there are fears in there, but I needed somebody to guide me through that. And that's where to me, facing our fears is a mandatory thing to our process.
And it's interesting how you put yourself in that position too, though.
Oh yeah, but I've been doing that all my life, and that's how I push myself right to the edge, and that's and like I'm 50, so I've been doing this for 50 years, and I recognize that. I push myself right to the edge where it's sink or swim, man. You know, in French Canadian, we shit or get off the pot. You know, and sorry, I had to put that in.
Oh, that's I forgot how often I heard that growing up. Oh my goodness.
and it's one of those things. It's like I've been dreaming about this book for years, and I need to write it. It's all there. The content is done. My outline is done. I just got to piece it together. And when I get to that point, I kind of go and I freeze, and I become that deer in the headlights. And it's like, oh my God, I gotta get out of that. You know, I gotta face my fears and jump into it and just kind of roll with it. So anyway, so that's
I'm just so glad you didn't have a punchline at the end of that story, because whatever that was in that field, what was it in that field that you saw? It was in there that these predators were circling?
A wolf and a hawk.
Yeah, looking at something.
Yeah, they were hunting.
I just thought you were going to end up saying that it managed to bypass them until it got out on the road and you ran it over.
Oh, no. Oh, no. I don't.
Well, I hit it with a car.
No.
It's right. I mean, we work in a couple of realms. We work in reality, as in what happens, and then we work in another reality, which is story interpretation. And when we have maybe a client, let's use an analogy like this, and it can be a level of fear as well. We're concerned whether or not we say the right thing. We give the professional. You exude professionalism with somebody, and they say, okay, well, I'm going to call you tomorrow. And it can be on a social matter. It could be somebody you just met and you want to go out again or something, and they say, okay, look, I'll call you tomorrow. The reality is that we meet somebody or we do something and we present ourselves in a way which is fine. It's perfect. It's exactly the way that we want it. It's an authentic us. It's the real us. But then the time comes for that person to call us and they don't. And then we go into story interpretation quite naturally. You know, oh, well, I must have said something, or they're not interested in it. And maybe they found somebody to give the services cheaper. It won't be as good as mine. Maybe I should look at my pricing. Maybe I should look at what I'm offering. And we build this story interpretation. But it's not real. And we are working and moving through our life with a story interpretation about something. But in fact, we should be dealing with the reality. It could be that the person's lost your number. It could be that the person's had a car accident. It could be that the person's too busy. They can't get a line. They've had to go somewhere. One simple thing. But if we were a fly on the wall of that person, we would see what really was happening. But we've created
we create a story.
And we create a reality that is not reality. And we are in a vicious circle of running this movie in our mind all the time. When in fact, the reality is they forgot. The reality is they've got no battery in their cell phone to call you. The reality is that they've lost your number. It could be all manner of things. It's very, very useful as long as we know that we create it. It's useful when we know that it's not the reality. It's not the true fear.
Yeah.
As long as we know what our fears are, and they are representations, or a baby is born with two fears. That's loud noise and falling over. That's it. It doesn't want to fall over, and it doesn't like loud noise. Every other fear that we have is acquired by us over time. And so if we're acquiring them, we're registering them, we're putting them in our memory palace, and they're there. And every time something similar to it happens, we link it to that and we're off down the road of fear. When in fact, it might not be anything to be fearful about.
Sorry, I'm just going to let Cherie. Cherie's got to step out. Do you have 2 minutes to say goodbye, Cherie? And so people, sorry if I'm going to ignore you on the stream. I'm not ignoring you. I'm just.
Well, there's going to be a seat open, so hopefully somebody else wants to come in and bring share some great perspective. So thanks. I mean, it's always, Nicole, I mean, seriously, of all the topics, I had no idea. I told you I'd be here. I had no idea what we were going to talk about.
You're not off to yoga class, are you?
Yeah.
No, I'm actually off. Believe it or not, I'm off to the orthopedic.
Extreme yoga.
I think I'm done being extreme. My whole life has been in extremes, and it's about harmony, and I'm really working toward that. And I'm done like letting my body have to go through this in order for me to listen. So this is the last time, folks.
That's so funny.
Thank you anyway. I'm facing my fear. I'm letting it go.
Your phone being red hot late with all these chiropractors up and down the country ringing saying, "Are you okay at the moment?" Because we offer a great service. They'll all be in touch. You advertised it too much on here now. You're going to be susceptible to the chiropractic calls.
Oh, I have actually 2 really amazing ones I go to all the time, so I'm really happy with them. So I don't need any more. I already went to one.
Advertised on the notice board in the yoga class was. That's always a bit of a giveaway.
You know what? I'm very grateful for chiropractors. They actually really help keep us in alignment and tuned up with all the other things that are available for us to do. But anyway, you guys, thank you so much, and I will talk to you all later. And
all right.
Be back. Thank you.
Nice always a pleasure to see you, Cherie.
Bye.
She bends over backwards. Everybody, that's what it is.
And and that's what I mean. Like there's this fear that when your conversation, Dave, was so on point, and it's like we do come across these fears that just kind of overtake us, and once we start recognizing them, there's room for us to start facing them and shifting our views and just, I don't know, like there's so much. If anybody else wants to jump into the open seat so we can carry a 4-way conversation, it's always great when we have other people's opinions, because this can be such a great conversation. But if anybody's got more to add, Dave or Rain, please feel free. And like I said, I can't concentrate on listening. I can't do 2 things at once. If I read the comments, don't go there, Dave.
I'm there.
If I read the comments, I like them. I'm loving the stream. But if I start typing, I miss out on this amazing conversation. And I think that's the whole reason for Blab, is to have these rich conversations that help us to really, on this journey to connecting to our soul, to filling our souls. I think there's a conversation to be had, and an importance of a message to be carried and shared between each other, because there's so much. We all go through life in our own way. We all face different fears, and the fear that you are facing is real for you. Even if for me, it doesn't scare me. It's not a fearful thing for me, but that fear for you is real. And it's important to recognize that.
It is a human emotion.
Yes.
Fear is described as false evidence appearing real, which is very correct, but not complete, but it's very correct. It's like when someone says they're scared of the dark, or they're afraid of the dark. You're not afraid of the dark, you're afraid of what's in it.
Yes.
You're not afraid of heights, you're afraid of falling. You're not afraid of people around you, you're afraid of rejection. You're not afraid to love someone, you're afraid of not being loved back. You're not afraid to try again, you're afraid of being hurt again. You're not afraid to let go of a situation. You're afraid to accept the reality that it's over. It's realigning it and reframing it and seeing from what it really is the key with fear. There are things that we should be afraid of, but not everything. And it's a limiter. It's debilitating to us.
Yes, and that's where the fear is such a big thing, and it's like face everything and run. Thanks, Andy. And I just
well, we have one in sales for that. We had one in a sales environment for that. When you knock on a door and somebody opens it with a big German Shepherd or a massive dog with its teeth bared, and it isn't face everything on one. I must admit, it's not face, but it is a different word. But yeah, he's absolutely right. There are lots of different. I mean, somebody had forget everything and rise, or something, acronyms for acronyms' sake. Just see it for what it is. That's the key. But
yeah, and that I agree with that one, because a lot of the times it's first of all, it's identifying if there, what is going on. So if you're feeling fearful, and by whatever means that is, whether you're shallow breathing or you're putting off doing something or putting barriers in your way to doing something, that in itself can take a bit of mindfulness to figure out what it is that's going on there. And then not getting caught up in the fear, seeing it for what it really is. What is it? What is this really trying to teach you? What is this trying to teach you? So, embracing it. And it sounds really weird to say that, but it's, fear is usually associated with fight or flight.
Yeah.
And that's actually, to me, not always the best way to go, sort of approach fear. More like embrace it. Yes. Embrace it and try to understand what it's trying to tell you. And it may, fear is just that. It's just trying to show you something, and whatever you want to connotate with that, negative or positive feelings or whatever it is, that's its job. It's just trying to show you something. So, it's funny because in some Facebook groups I belong to, there's been a lot of people, and I've been resonating with what they've been saying about, fear of failure, not doing certain things in their business for fear of failure or fear of success. It's so funny how these different things can crop up as we move along in our journey. And they're just one more thing to embrace and go, okay, what's really going on here? Okay, let me see what different perspectives I can apply to this and get a grasp on this, so that I can, instead of, doing a shallow breathe, kind of reaction to it, I can learn from this. I can learn more deeply from this into what it's trying to really show me about where I'm going, what I want, how I want to grow, what else I can bring to others that I serve, and kind of go at it that way. Nice to meet you, John. Thank you so much for all the hearts. I'm going to have to keep clicking here.
I was afraid. I got shut by Coach Jenny. No, just kidding. I had so much fear of getting on right now.
No, don't be. It's so great to see a new face.
Good to meet you.
Good
to meet you.
I love being on camera. It's my thing. I love being in front of people and talking to people, so this is perfect. The only thing I was going to say is there's a really great Will Smith movie. It didn't do that great in the box office, unfortunately, but it's called After Earth. And it's a movie he did with his son. Yeah. And in that movie, he talks to his son who's, going out. He has to try to rescue him type of thing, They create this great suspense. But they deal with this concept of fear in that movie in such a way that it was very impactful to me. And it's this Will Smith's character says to his son, fear is not real. It's what we imagine the future is going to be. There's no evidence for it. However, danger is real. And one of the things I think of is like Simon Sinek teaches, if 15,000 years ago, if we're out on the African plains, and even today, really, if we're out on the African plains and we're this tribal group and the grass rustles, we have to instinctively go, is that the wind? Is it the breeze? Or, oh crap, is that a lion? Right? Because if we just go, oh, it's the breeze and it's a lion, we're dead. But if we go, so there has to be an instinct there that says, oh, hello. But if it's just the breeze and we overreact and we get away from the breeze, we're still alive, right? So the thing that I try to teach people is that we're electromagnetic beings. This is innately programmed into us to have this fight-flight mechanism, as you were saying. But the objective is to master your responses I'm sorry, somebody just came in now. Master your responses over your reactions. You know, you respond or you react. Those are the two things that we focus on. And if you're reacting to fear, you know, it's like, okay, is that the win? And not staying in cognition, you know, because if our emotions go up, our intelligence comes down. So we have to be able to step back and take that deep breath and go, is this really, you know, if I make this next call and they say no, is it really the end of my business? Is it the end of the world? Or if I walk in on this cold call, or if I'm talking with a client and I give them that Coach Jenny cathartic shove, you know, if I give them that shove, is it something that's going to hurt them or harm them? But we still have to be able to measure, you know, through cognition of what's best. You know, if we don't respond to that grass with a okay, and find out, okay, wait, is it a lion? You know, and of course, you know, you don't want to stick around too long for the danger to get you, but you definitely want to give yourself the time to recognize the difference between something you're imagining to be, you know, if I make this call and they say no, it's the end of the world, it's the end of my business, you know. And I used to teach like speed dating stuff to guys through personality coaching, and you know, we get a group of people together and we do this 30-minute session prior to the speed dating stuff, you know, and I tell them, like, this is probably pretty scary to you, you know, or even just walking up to somebody and saying, hi, you're beautiful. Can I take you out sometime, or can I get your number? Can we, you know, whatever. We create what you guys were saying earlier, is this whole story in our heads that, like, oh, she's not going to like me. I'm probably not her type. She's really beautiful. What would she want with a guy like me? And we instantly, and I love how Coach Jenny puts it, as far as being that inner voice of Hilda, you know, kicks our own arse, right? Kicks our own arse, long before we even find out if it's real. So we have to overpower that instinct and say, hold on, time out. Is this real? Is this really going to hurt me? Is it really dangerous if I make this phone call, or if I ask this person the question, if I ask for the sale, if I go out and I tackle this thing, if I write the book, and 10 people buy it, cool. You just changed 10 people's lives, you know? And you put your light out into the world. So why fear that?
Yeah. It's like, wow.
Anyway, what go, Coach Jenny. That was my drop.
John, it's like, I am blown away. I'm so glad you jumped in. What a great addition to this conversation. And I loved what you said about the, I gotta reread fear versus danger. And that's so true. It's so true. And we do get caught. We sometimes don't make the difference between the fear and, well, most of the time we don't make the difference. When we get stuck in that deer in the headlights thing that I was talking about, we get stuck in not separating the danger and the fear. And it's like, I know for me, when I know because I'm always in nature, or often anyways, and I was afraid of snakes for the longest time, just because I learned to be afraid. My mom was afraid, and she showed me to be afraid of the things. And we used to go swimming in the lake, and they had these big black snakes in the lake, and they were kind of disgusting. So, so it took me a long time to finally touch a snake. Took me many, many years, because I had to get to that level where I recognized the difference between the danger and the fear. And at one point, I remember having a conversation with a 4-foot snake in the wild, and it was going about its way. And I said, hold on, stop it there, you know. And yeah, I do have that kind of a relationship with nature. But the snake just stopped. It stopped, it turned around, it looked at me, and I meditated with the snake right beside me. And I couldn't even look at a picture. I could not look at a picture of a snake. Even if it was on television, I would turn it off. And that was that fear. I didn't recognize between the fear and the danger. And here in Canada, where I live, there are no poisonous snakes. There's no reason to be like, they're not my best friends. Believe me, I don't invite them in my life that often. But I've had to face that fear and recognize between the danger and the fear. And that's where, even in our lives, recognizing that, to take what John was saying about writing the book. or whatever. For me, it's my book. For you, it's probably something else, but allow yourself to recognize between the different, the two, the danger and the fear. And thank you, John. That added such a great dimension to this conversation.
I think it's also having the information that you know the difference between whether or not it's danger or whether or not it's just something to be, it's taking responsibility for your actions at that time and knowing they're in the right, your actions are going in the right direction. I know we use a phrase responsibility, but it's two words. It's responsibility. It's your ability to respond in a correct way to something that you either hear or see, or you read sometimes that's something you think, wow, and you get scared about something, but should you be scared about it? Is it something that's going to harm you? If it's going to harm you, then it's danger. But the fear that we have it's always the same. It's like the book. Should we? I can't talk about a book because it didn't take me much to write the book. Because the book that comes out in April is partly done by the seminars that we run. But writing a book had always appealed to me, but there was a fear involved in it as to whether or not it would be as good as I wanted it to be, whether or not anybody would want to buy it, whether or not I had the time once I set off to do it. And the success really comes from the old saying that the success is in the cave you fear to enter. Is when you enter the cave to get your success, what you fear is in the cave may not even be there. It's the story that you created about what lurks in there. Yeah. And writing a book really is a marathon, not a race to get it finished. And nobody knows who wins a marathon. They just ask you, how long did it take you to run the marathon? How long did it take you to write the book? It doesn't mean I wrote my book quicker than somebody else. It's not a race. It's a marathon job. And when you reframe these things, such as fears, you get the understanding of what they really are. They're not scary. They're just issues that we have to deal with. And we've got all the capability in the world inside us to deal with anything that comes our way. It's just that we need to understand that. Once we know that, we know that we can have a fear about something because it's logical. It is a logical fear.
Yeah. It's got to make sense.
A lot of people are scared of something. Then there's a good reason why you should be. It's like if all around you are losing their, whatever that phrase, if you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs, it just means that you haven't grasped the level of danger in a situation like other people have. It's when it happens to other people, that's when you know it could happen to you. But John's right. When something happens and you've got a noise or you hear something or whatever, just find out what it is before you start to get scared about it, because it could be nothing.
But to say what you're saying is about when it happens to others, it can happen to you. But we tend to focus. For me, anyways, what I'm seeing and recognizing, we tend to focus on when it doesn't happen, when it doesn't turn out well. We'll look at, look, they didn't succeed at that, or they didn't.
That's human nature as well.
Yeah. So we look at that rather than recognize what did the person, I on a stream somewhere, I don't know, I don't remember which stream, which social media or whatever, somebody said, I did something and it was awful. It was the first time, it was somebody talking about, they did their first blab and it was a royal mess or something. Anyways, I don't remember how it was said. And there's so many people, and I love the conversation, what came out on the stream. It's like, but what did you learn from it? You learned that this, that, and the other things. And the person stepped out of that conversation recognizing that it might have, initially it might have looked like a mess, but it turned out that she learned, whoever it was, learned so much from this experience. And that's what we tend to forget, is we learn from the experience of facing our fears. And sometimes we do get scraped. We do get banged up. We do get, and I don't mean necessarily physically, But when we do face our fears, it does push us into an area where we haven't practiced. We haven't tried that out before. So most of us want to win the Olympic gold, and we've never even done it before.
Never taken training.
Yeah. And it's like, you know what? Give yourself the chance. Face that fear and take it one gradual step at a time. Let yourself practice. Let yourself grow into it, and face the fear gradually so that you can evolve into that next level of who you are. And I think that's what you were saying, Dave, is like, when we start comparing ourselves to others, we tend to look at, but we don't compare justly. We compare apples with oranges rather than say, you know what, my tree is this big in that field because I'm just starting. I'm a sapling, and I'm comparing myself to a big old oak tree that's like 100 and whatever years old, and I want to be as good and as fruitful and as strong, and I bang myself on the wall because I'm not as good as that big old oak tree, and that makes sense out of that, you know.
Yeah, and you might be a birch tree. So
exactly.
You're gonna be.
You might be a bonsai.
Yeah, you could be a bonsai. Yeah.
We nobody. I don't know anybody. I don't know anybody who wants a 300-foot bonsai tree. You gotta know what your niche market is. You know, nobody ever looks back and says, you know, where did it all go right?
Yeah. No kidding.
I don't know anybody that says that. You know, it's like, where did it all go wrong? One of the best examples, I think, is in football, in English football. And I saw an interview with an English football manager who isn't English. It wasn't there as a surprise. And it was Jose Mourinho. And he was at Chelsea. And they asked him about his training program for the team. And when a big cup game came up, most of the time, what you would look at is a video of the football team you were going to play, or the boxer you were going to fight, or the rugby team you were going to play, and you'd look at how good they were. But what Mourinho did was he showed the team and he analysed the footage of games where the team that they were going to play lost. He said, because if you focus on when the other team, the competition, win, all you're going to do is unconsciously put them in that position again. But when you look at them losing, what you analyse is, how do we get them to play like that again? And it's reframing it as in, where did it all go wrong for them? And looking at how they played badly and getting them to duplicate that playing style. And the only way you can do it is by duplicating the playing style of the team that beat them. Yeah. Wow. And that's the key, is what we focus on. We either focus on the fear, or we focus on the cause of the fear, or we focus on our response to it. And if we focus on what we do and how we've done something and it worked, it's far better than dwelling in on where it all went wrong. Because otherwise, unconsciously, we're just going to duplicate that behavior again.
Well, and it's looking at it too, instead of looking at something as a failure. Nothing is a failure if you learn something from it.
Yeah.
And I think it was like Abraham Lincoln or somebody that said, you know, he went to try to be president like over 20 times and failed. And he said he learned more. He learned so much more from the times that he tried than when he actually became president.
And that's what Moonshadow wrote: fall down 7 times and stand up 8. And that's so right. And it's that 8th time. But people stop, they get involved with that fear, and they just believe the story of those 7 falls.
Yeah.
You know?
We had a Prime Minister, Margaret Thatcher, here, who was famously quoted as saying that about failure, the thing with failure, that she didn't always, but she's so well known about saying it, is exactly the same as that. Is just that you have to fight the battle more than once to win it. And a straight win, you might have the win, you might have the success, but do you learn anything from it? It's the change of approach. It's the change of how you did it, and doing something different to what you did last time is the thing that gives you the success. Continually doing it the same way again and again is a sadness if you're expecting a different result. So looking at your process and looking at how you do something, changing it, you may have to do it more than once, as long as you learn about it. Because failure is temporary. It's just you fail. You're not a failure. Failure is, if you're a failure, you are a failure. It's like being poor. Yeah. We've all been somewhere and we've got no money on us. We're broke. That's temporary. Yeah. Poor is a lifestyle. It's a condition.
Yeah.
So
it's a
failure,
that you,
failure is the same. Failing does not make you a failure. It just makes that a fail.
Failure is the rehearsal to perfection. Hello, thank you. Yeah. It's like, boot touche.
I always tell people that fear knocks at your door, and faith answers. And there's no one there.
Yeah,
it comes down to conditioning. It really comes down to conditioning. And I think somebody put a comment in the sideline there about how special forces, if you look at military personnel, how they're trained. They recondition themselves to understand that when they're going into a situation, and from my military background, when we're trying to go into a situation, we know it's going to be dangerous. We know there's going to be dangerous. Somebody might be shooting at us. Somebody, there might be, some environmental conditions we have to deal with. We know it's going to be dangerous, but we condition ourselves. We practice those things over and over and over again to condition our bodies to respond instead of reacting. So we go back to that conditioning factor of teaching our nervous system that we're in control, that we can master our environment, and that when we perceive this fear, we have to condition ourselves to go, that's crazy, and it's when we get that, like we just said about failure is amazing, because that's another thing I teach too, is teaching people that failure is it's a result. It's the same thing as success. It's just a result.
Feedback.
It's not the result. Yeah, it's feedback. It's not the result you wanted. So what did you learn? So you can go back to the drawing board, reattack the situation, and get it right.
Wow. This is such a great conversation, and it's like it's like, because I have it's 1 hour. And so wow, I'm just blown away. I'm talking about fear, and I'm looking, and you have no idea how much, looking at my stream right now and seeing everybody on top of that and everybody participating, I am facing my own fears today.
Nicole, can I just ask you, this show is an hour, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
And
yes.
It's been longer than an hour, isn't it?
It has been. We're 5 minutes over.
That means you failed.
I did, but I can fail. I can fail like this. I love it.
That failure isn't bad.
But I'm learning so much.
And do you have fear about that, Nicole?
Because to me, it's so. I'm a very private person. I love to share. I'm very generous in my sharing, but I am very solitary person. I do spend a lot of time with myself, and I'm probably, my best friend is me and nature. I spend a lot of time. I'm a hermit, actually, and I'll own that. And my partner gets to share my life. He's got to put up with it, but just seeing how many people are participating and are joining us in this amazing conversation, because I think we're all on a journey to really filling our souls, and facing our fears is something that is. It's a fearful conversation, because it's not something, I was never shown to talk about my fears as something that was positive. It was something that was wrong with me. It was something that I had to snap out of it, I had to, and it it was like, you know, grow up. I'm almost 6 feet tall, for heaven's sakes. How much taller can I grow? There was always these things that facing my fears. It's been part of my life, and I've always put myself, like I was saying earlier on in the blab. I always put myself right at that edge where I was forced to face my fears, but I was always forced to face my fears under threat of a hammer over my head, and not always physically. Sometimes yes, but not always physically. But there was always that conversation and that mental chatter that took place when facing my fears. And so I think we all go through that, and talking about it, putting it out there, owning it, and making it a human part of our journey, inviting it into our lives, and acknowledging that, you know what, we're all in this together. We're all facing this. We're all dealing with it. And you know what, your fears are yours. They matter. But here, I'll help you along. Let's talk about it. And for me, I know that talking about things when they come up in my life has helped me. Airing out different things, not airing out my dirty laundry. I don't need to spread out my whole life out there, but airing out what those fears are, saying them out loud. Just kind of I always say it brings out the trash, you know. Mm-hmm. I never keep my trash in my house. Once I'm done with it, it was Monday. I put it out on the street today, and the truck took it out, and it's gone. And it's the same thing when we get stuck with these things in our lives on this journey that we're all on to really fulfill our soul, to really connect to who we are, to really ground ourselves in who we are. I think we have to have these honest conversations and share in all our richness, in all how we face these. And today was facing our fears. And I think that's what this conversation was. It was so rich. So on that, I'll have to give each of you a short minute to say goodbye, and I'll close it out and tell you what we're going to be talking about next week. So who's going? I'll go with who's on my right, which is John. Which I don't know if it's.
Oh, I have to defer to ladies first.
Okay, Rain it is then.
Oh, okay. Well, it was just a real pleasure joining you here, Nicole. I've watched a couple of your live lab shows, and then I've gone over to YouTube to catch the replays. I really, really enjoy them. So I really want to thank you for this opportunity. I had a great time today.
Great to have you. And if you have like something that you want to share, feel free. Just tell them, put your stream in the, put your if people want to connect with you, feel free, because I think this is where we can get rich in sharing who we are and how people can connect with us. So
okay.
Everybody, if you want to share and who you are, how people can connect with you, if you love their comments or whatever, put your information in the stream. I don't have any issues with that whatsoever.
Okay, well, Rain Down with Expert Video Coaching. I think my sales page is launching tomorrow. Oh. And I've actually been taking a long time to come up with the process and procedure to get somebody somebody who has a cause or something they're passionate about, whether it's their business, whatever it is, to get them visible authentically. So I specifically work with coaches and healers and experts, change makers, that type of thing. So, and it was quite funny because last week I was dealing with this fear issue. I was dealing with this fear issue quite a bit, and I was like looking at things going, okay, you have your outline, you have all of the content, you know all of this stuff. What are you doing?
Yeah, and it does show up when we push ourselves. Like I said in the beginning, when we push ourselves, that's when it shows up.
Yeah.
So put your information. Yeah, put your information on the side, and so I'll go back up to John, and Dave, you'll be the last one before me.
Well, Nicole, I love the topic, and thanks for letting me jump in here and contribute a little bit. And I'll put my link on the side there. It's just johnaburst.com/contact us, and or you can just DM me at Twitter. Is another great way to reach out to me. If you like anything that I'm teaching, I'd love to have you guys follow me here on Blab or Twitter. But fear, man, when it comes down to fear, you just have to remember it's conditioning. And you have to sit down and really evaluate whether it's danger or whether it's just something you're imagining, because we use the same power for our dreams and our feels. It's called imagination. So we imagine fear, we imagine our dreams. So chase those dreams, go after those dreams. Nicole, great conversation. Thank you very much.
Loved having you. It was great meeting you, and I hope you'll join us again.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, perfect. So put your information in the stream. Okay, cool. So Dave, your turn.
All I was going to add to that was that when anybody clicks through, anybody that'll watch on Blab, if you click to follow, just click the bird as well and go straight through to their Twitter page, because that's what the best thing to do is, because you get more value out of the Twitter page, I think, than you would out of Blab, because it's just going to be the continual blabs that you can find out more about the people that are quoted here and also being on the screen. And if you want to start with me first, I'll really appreciate that. But one thing I take from this is never ever be afraid of fear. Yeah. Because fear is a guide, and fear is telling you something, and you just don't understand it when you first see it or feel the fear. It could be a fear of anything. It might not be what you perceive it to be at the very start. And Angela Artslaria said the only thing to fear is fear itself. Yeah, but see the fear for what it is. If somebody said to you, "There's a bear over there," would it be a 6'6" tall grizzly bear, or would it be a really small bear in a little suit and a top hat? You gotta frame it as to what it really is. Because if you just fear everything, you'll do nothing, and that really is something that you need to fear. But yeah, this has been a great hour and a bit, and I always enjoy it every week, and it's a great group of people, and it's great to see Rain, and it's great to meet John. I would suggest to anybody that they always subscribe to this show, because you find out a lot of things from Nicole and the people that she gets here. So congratulations, Nicole.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And it's like, wow, what a great conversation. And I hope everybody got a little bit of filling their soul in this conversation. And every week, Monday at 12:30, I have these conversations because we're on this journey, like I said. And this week, it was facing our fears. And next week, it'll be surviving the solitary journey. And because we're all on this journey by ourselves, but we are in this together. And how do we survive it? But with ourselves. So that's going to be a conversation that I hope you'll join us again. And it's always about these conversations where we can fill our souls, where we can connect to who we are, and where we can learn from each other and unify each other in our strengths and share in this journey that we're all on. So on that, I'll wish everybody a great week, and I hope you'll join me. I'll put my link in the bottom, and you can join me next week. I'm not very good with this technology thing. I'll read all the conversation on the side after the blab. I'm good with nature and just being here, but I can't do too many things at the same time. But I'll put the link for in next week's blab and for my website right after we finish this blab. So join us again next week, where it'll be another conversation on how to the journey to connect to fulfilling our soul, and it'll be surviving the solitary journey. So take care, everybody.
Awesome. Have a good day.
You too.
Nice one. Good to see you, Elaine.
Good to see you too.
Yeah, long time no see. Business good?
It's awesome. It was good. Yeah.
Yeah. So I look forward to seeing this. I've got a new website. 2 weeks time goes live, so it's a bit
nice.
It's because I changed the name of the company and everything, so it's nerve-wracking, and it's immense, isn't it, really? So
I think I've read a couple of your Google Plus posts, and I've noticed that it's big changes. I'm excited.